Let's go in chronological order this year. The 2021-22 76ers season was what to you?
It was a good season. It was a tumultuous season, is what it was. But we knew that going in, Dan. It wasn't surprised. We had the Ben Simmons situation, which was difficult. It's difficult for the team. It's difficult for the coaches, everybody. But so if you just look at that, and up until the point that we made a trade, I think you would look at our season and say, wow, their second best player was out. And yet at that point, they were one game out of first place in the East.
I'll tell you something. I got to tell you a story before I bring Doc Rivers on here. Used to play golf with Doc back in the day. And we used to have a guy called the Shot Doctor when he was on in Orlando. And Doc, I think, came out of the broadcast booth to take the Magic gig. And this team was after like the Penny Hardaway and O'Neal moves and all those guys got taken out. And Doc took this team. And I'll tell you what, he's my favorite NBA coach. And he joins us right now here on with Big Sills. Doc, I got to tell you, man, those days going back and playing golf with Shot Doctor straightening out your drive, man. Man, look at where we are now here, Doc. I appreciate you jumping aboard, man. Hopefully you had a great
that was a heck of a year. I always go back to that. I always say that I don't know if that was a blessing or a curse, because from that point on, it seems like every job that I've received, it's like, let's try to rebuild the culture and redo it. I did it in Boston, and but that Orlando job, man, I remember we made, I think, 37 trades that year, something like that. Sports Illustrated picked us to be the worst team in NBA history. Actually, what's funny is they said that we were going to break the Philadelphia 76ers record of having the worst season, and we end up going 500. I win Coach of the Year. It was a fun season. But that really that shaped me. That shaped me coaching. We played all these young guys, and we had a bunch of vets at the same time. That I had gotten coaches. You remember I told you the story. I got coaches, calls from other coaches, telling me not to take like half the veterans that I had. All of them are bad guys. I mean, it was crazy. But for a young coach coming into the NBA, I would say that unless you adopt a great team, that's the perfect situation, because you learn everything. You're put in every position, and it helps you for the future.
Doc, do you think you had the most fun with that job than any other job you've ever had?
I had a lot of fun. Obviously you win a title with a group of guys with the Celtics in 2008. It's hard to change that fun that you had there. But if it wasn't the funnest, my first couple years in Orlando was right up there. It's funny. I still stay in contact with most of that group. I got a call the other day from John Amici all the way from London, and
wow.
So you just really, I didn't know that when I got into coaching. I didn't know that part of it. I got into coaching because of the love of basketball. I stayed in the coaching because of the relationships. And I've learned, like, some of those relationships are tough at the time, because you're trying to get a player to change. You're trying to teach a player, a young player. And so that's very difficult. And then later on, when you leave, and these guys start calling you back, you realize a lot of you stuff that you did for them turned out to be pretty good stuff.
Absolutely, Doc. I stay in touch with Jimmy Johnson. He was my pro and college coach, and I love that man to this day. You know what? I always used to say this to him, Doc, and I've brought this up with people before. He's on my ass about something, and I looked at him one day at practice, and I go, man, why are you always on my ass? He goes, worry when I'm not.
That is, I literally, in one of my closeout meetings to one of my players on the Sixers, I literally told him that line. I said, listen, as long as I'm on you, you're in good standings.
That's for damn sure.
I'm looking at you as something you can be. When I stop being on you and stop saying things, you are either a superstar or I've given up. You don't want that.
No.
Yeah.
Doc, let's go in chronological order this year. The 2021-22 76ers season was what to you?
It was a good season. it was a tumultuous season, is what it was, But we knew that going in, Dan. It wasn't surprised. We had the Ben Simmons situation, which was difficult. It was difficult for the team. It's difficult for the coaches, everybody. But so if you just look at that, and up until the point that we made a trade, I think you would look at our season and say, wow, their second best player was out. And yet at that point, they were one game out of first place in the East. That's doing something. Joel was phenomenal all year. And so he carried that. I thought Tyrese Maxey, honestly, he looked at most improved player. I don't know how he didn't win it, in my opinion. But listen, but what he did was phenomenal. I thought Tobias Harris, I thought early on he struggled, but by midseason he kind of bought into the road that we needed him to play for the rest of the season. I thought he was amazing. So yeah, it was a good season in that return because we had a lot of what I always call clutter, and then we make the trade. So I look at it as a good season, but you know how I'm built. Great is only for the winner. Good is for everybody else, and average is for teams less than that. So I would put us as a good season.
Doc, I'm going to say something here to you, and it aggravates me every time I hear you do this because I know you. Doesn't it bug you that you have to defend yourself all the time in your resume and the stuff that you've done? I mean, because I hear people criticizing you, and I go, man, it's got to kill him to have to tell nobodies what we've accomplished. You had the greatest era in Clipper basketball. Nobody gives you credit. I mean, dude, outside of Larry Brown, that thing was a train wreck with that owner, the situation there. Look at the situations that you've had to deal with at every stop except Orlando. And doesn't it bug you, though, Doc? You have to defend yourself always?
I don't ever try to defend what I've done in the past because no one can take that away from me. I've been successful then everywhere I've gone. Orlando, right. We complete turnaround, and we did that. Boston, to me, was the biggest turnaround. Like, they hadn't won in forever. Danny Ainge and I had a vision. We knew it was going to take time. We knew we were going to take some lumps during that time, but we did it. And we ended up winning a title. And, listen, if not for injury of Kevin Garnett, who knows how many titles we could have won there. Still, you win a title, you get to the finals, you lose in a game 7. Then you go to a Clipper organization that organizationally was struggling for its inception. And, the one thing I look back on we turned that around. That's a place now. When I took that job, I said, I want this team to be a team looked upon as where every free agent wants to go. We started out doing the Lakers in LA, which was unheard of. We were getting free agents over the Lakers. We turned it around. That last year, it was a bubble season. So listen, you can't get that back. But then I took the job here in Philadelphia, same thing. They had got swept out of the first round. We come in there in the first year and win the East in the regular season. Obviously the playoffs, we get to the second round and had a game 7 at home to lose. As a coach, you take that. You don't like that, but it's part of what you go through. Obviously Ben struggled, but we all struggled in game 7. And then this year was tough because, listen, we make a trade and the whole situation. Then Joel gets hurt. The only thing that I laughed at is, who's to blame? We had over a year. Our best player didn't play the first 2 games. Our best player just had surgeries on both hands. And yet somehow we were expected to still, I guess, win that series. And if we don't, then let's blame somebody. I don't play the blame game. I'm just not a big fan of that. You take accountability all the time as a coach and as a system, and you just keep building. I came here, and my goal is to turn this into a championship organization and a championship team. How many years that takes, who knows? But I love where we're at right now. I think we have a chance. This is a huge summer for us, Dan. But
hey, you just got some good news that you're going to be able to go in the first round this year and draft because Brooklyn deferred it until next year. Said that's got to be some good news too going into the summer.
I don't know if that's good news or not yet. We'll find that out because it's not like we have a great pick. but it's another asset that we can maybe build. And so, you'll always take a first-round pick if you can get one, and the fact that we got that back is good. But this is an important summer. I believe we'll bring James back and get that signed. At least I'm hoping we do. With Joel, with Tyrese, with Tobias, we got to build from there and add players, obviously, but the right players. Man, we have to get the right guys here so we can take the next step.
So the James Harden, you lead me there. Wasn't James Harden, Houston James Harden, but again, new systems. The Brooklyn situation, obviously, he comes to you. Is there a plan to re-sign him? And you want it? How about this, Doc? Do you want him back for the upcoming NBA season? And do you think Daryl Morey and the organization wants him back this year?
Yeah, I think we all do. And absolutely.
At the right price?
Well, just we want him back. I don't get into the part. One thing I've learned as a coach is don't get into the negotiation part. Listen, whatever he signs for, good for him. And that's the way you look at it. And whatever the organization can get for him, good for us. But at the end of the day, once all that part is done, we got to be a one, if you know what I'm saying. And so I think James has a lot of basketball left in him. I think he's a better version, obviously, of what we all saw. But I don't take light. Like, this guy came off injury. He had to get in better shape, which I thought he did that for us. And I saw some things that James can do. And it's one of the biggest needs we had. And that's being, a facilitator, but also a scorer. We need him to do both. And I think he will do both. I'm confident he can.
Couple last questions for you here, Doc. You mentioned before the Benz. How much did that linger, do you think, over the team and over your coaching with the players, that whole dynamic? And again, no shade on anybody here. I'm talking about your group. I'm not talking so much about Ben, but the situation on how that was turbulent around your locker room and your style of coaching. How much did it play a factor with the noise? That's what my coach called it. He called it noise in the locker room.
I call it clutter.
Yeah.
It's funny. I have a great relationship with Jimmy Johnson. And, you're right. He always calls it noise. I call it clutter. Listen, it had an impact, but it came in waves. It was really interesting. I thought early on, let's be honest, we knew it was coming to the season. I was hopeful. I really was. We had a couple of good meetings. We thought maybe Ben would play. And, once he didn't, I thought we needed to get through camp. That was where the most clutter was, because every day our players had to answer that question, and then even early into the season. But once we got into the season, Dan, I thought our guys focused on the guys that were on the floor, and they did a great job there. What people didn't see behind the scenes at times, we would have been at practice and things like that, that became disruptive for me. But I kind of really tried to do a good job of isolating that from the team. But overall, listen, life's not always smooth and easy, and that's okay. Like, you deal with it. I've always been like, it is what it is, guys. We're going to deal with it. We're going to keep moving on and focusing. I thought Joel was great in his leadership, and Tobias, I think, and Danny Green. I think those three guys should get a lot of credit for how the team performed through all that clutter.
Finally here, I'm going to ask you the question you probably hate the most. Who do you like in tonight's finals? I mean, hey, every time I ask a coach this, I'm on vacation. I don't know. But again, put your broadcasting headsets back on again. Who do you like, Celtics or Golden State Warriors?
I don't know who I like tonight, because it's not about tonight. It's about who gets the floor first. I don't know why. I always lean to defense. I know people are going to call me because I was a Celtic and all that. But that's not why. It's funny. I talked to a couple of broadcasters who were doing the game. They asked me my opinion. I said, I just think defense wins. They're both solid defensive basketball teams. But the Celtics defense this year from Christmas on is elite. And teams like that rarely lose. So that's what I would say.
Okay, I have one more sneaky one here. What's a tougher fan base to coach in front of, Boston or Philly?
That's a good question. I don't think either. Neither one bothers me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't mind passion.
Hey, Doc, pretty tough group.
Yeah, both of them are really tough groups. But I would rather have passion, people getting on you, people cheering for you, than people who don't care. You know, and I've been in that too before. And give me the guys that care. That doesn't mean they're right. And one thing I've always said, I don't really care what at times who they want you to play and all that stuff. I'm the coach. I got to do what's best for the team and live with it. But I would rather have that attention and that passion, because then the one thing I will tell you, if you get it right, there is no better fan base in those situations than in Boston and Philly and New York. I guess those would be the three. If you can get it right, if you can pull it off, then what you get for that is better than any other city you can live in. So I tell my players that all the time. It's worth it. Drown out all the noise, and keep your head doing your work. And that's what I do.
Well, you tell all my friends and Dr. Phillips I said hi. Doc, I appreciate it. You know my love for you, man. You're one of my favorite people, not just coaches on the planet, because you talk to your players from the heart, man. It'll always be my friendship with you, and I thank you so much for doing this. Thank you, Doc. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
You got it. That is Doc Rivers, the head basketball coach of the Philadelphia 76ers. Some good stuff there, man. Hey, don't forget Morgan & Morgan, our good friends. Where the fee is free, my friends, that means this. If you're hurt or injured on the job, one of the most important things that you can possibly do is find an attorney for you and your family. That's right. Hey, for the people, it's not just a slogan. That's who they are. It's what they are. They represent all these millions of people over the years. 30 years, they've collected over $13.5 billion worth of compensation for their clients. 800 attorneys strong. That's who Morgan & Morgan is. They're the biggest casualty law firm in the country. Nobody's bigger. There is no such thing as a fender bender when it comes to Morgan & Morgan. That's what they do. That's who they are. They have offices in Philadelphia, New York, Florida, and all across the country, ready to do battle for you and service what your needs are. The consultation is free. Call them at 800-512-1600. That's 800-512-1600. The consultation is free. 800-512-1600. Open 24/7, 7 days a week. And when you call Morgan & Morgan, do me a favor. Tell them Big Sills sent you.
When choosing a lawyer for your injury case, you may ask, does the size of the law firm matter? Well, of course it does. The insurance company, they're huge with unlimited resources. And whether your case is big or small, they're built to bully you out of the money you're owed. But here's the good news. We're big too, the biggest actually. And we're built to fight to make them pay for all that was taken from you. Size is our strength. There's only one Morgan & Morgan. ForThePeople.com.